I'm here with Brian Michaud, Greg Levitz. We're going to finish up our conversation and discussion about gear. We got a couple things left to go over, and then we're gonna jump right into diver etiquette. And diver etiquette being common courtesy at different locations. So to finish our discussion on dive gear, we're gonna go. I think we got 3 things left. So why don't we go with Brian? Brian, let's talk about boots.
Especially in colder water, boots are absolutely necessary. You're not doing that 40-degree dive without a pair of boots on your feet.
Right?
A couple of good examples there. I've actually owned all but the pink ones. I do like the rock boots that have the nice, like the sneaker type bottom.
Yep.
They add a little bit of support to the fin. They're comfortable walking around in. You can get in and out of the water, especially if you're doing a shore dive. You can walk around with and feel comfortable. The bottom boot on the left that's pictured there, the bear, that would go with a dry suit. You'll strap that on top of your dry suit, because again, you still need to have some sort of boot to keep the fin on. Diving with a dry suit that has just a regular bootie on it, and you don't wear your boot that goes over the end of the dry suit, your fins tend to not stay on very well.
Yeah, right.
They tend to pop right off. On the far right, there's the dry suit with the integrated boot. I actually recently switched to that and absolutely love it.
Really?
I know some guys don't care for it. I think you're one of them.
I hate it.
I have a Fourth Element sock that I wear underneath.
Yep.
And it's the most comfortable I have ever been.
Interesting. Okay, very cool.
I absolutely love it. The first time I tried it, I was like, I don't know about this. I didn't have the right sock on.
Yep.
And I had oh my God squeeze. I mean, it was like crazy painful.
Yep.
I was inverting to get air into my feet.
Jeez.
Because it hurt that bad. We got out. I was talking with Bert, and he's like, oh, well, here, try these socks I'm not wearing. It was the Fourth Element ones. And oh, man, it was so nice. The water was cold. My feet were warm. It was a beautiful thing.
Yep.
I've seen a lot of guys put the Converse on.
That's the reason I put it up. We had a couple trips with Hank, and one of the girls who's actually on the Santee women's dive team, that's all she would wear were pink Converse over her dry suit boots.
Yep.
Yep, she loved them. They were cheap. They're cheaper than normal rock boots.
So for sure.
It's wear them out, throw them away, buy another pair.
Yeah. I almost bought a pair of Converse for that.
Yep.
But then my suit developed some holes, so I had to send my suit out to get fixed. And while that was happening, I had tried another dry suit. I rented a dry suit that had the built-in boots, and that's when I was hooked on it. I'm like, all right, no, have the boots put on. And the shop's like, you sure?
Yeah, you
sure that's what you want us to do? I'm like, yep. Put the boots. I'm like, we're just making sure that you want the boots. Yes, I want the boots. Put the boots on the thing.
Most people want it the other way around.
Yep, I absolutely love them. I find it to be very comfortable.
No, hey, everyone has different things. That's cool.
Yep.
Greg, you got anything to add? I mean, Greg and I have the same boots for our dry suit. So
yeah, go back to that picture so we're clear on what we're talking about. So all right, so obviously you have the wetsuit booties on the upper left-hand side, and they make it's interesting. So I like a hard sole. Some people like a soft sole, and what I mean by soft sole is that they're more flexible. They're not as they're not like super soft like a sock.
Yep.
But I've always liked the ones that have a harder sole on them, and I've always liked that ones that have a zipper on them, so they're tighter around my ankles. The ones that slide on have a tendency to get mushy when you're walking around with them for some weird reason. At least that was my interpretation. Now, the ones below them, the Bear dry suit, we'll call them rock boots, but they're rock boots, I think, was a coined term from DUI. So the suit boots would be for like a soft sock style dry suit. I use those. I've had great luck with those, and I've always changed. I've had, I think, 2 pair of those. I've changed them from regular shoelace style to bungee style.
Yeah.
Seems to work 1,000 times better. I think I was probably, I 20 years ago was when I started doing it, and people looked at me strange because they used to be that the rock boots had laces that were like 30 feet too long. Your ankle a couple times. And then there was videos on exactly how it should be done. And it was a nightmare and a half.
Yeah.
So all I did was relatively simple. I just put a quick barrel lock on it and called it a day. So it worked out really, really good. The Converse ones, the old Chuck Taylor black ones, are what I used to see an awful lot. It's funny, if you're wearing a dry sock, a neoprene dry sock, and it's really cold, I was never comfortable. I couldn't find one that actually fit me because they weren't overly not wide, but the height of it, you wouldn't be able to put a thick sock in there. It was a little challenging for me. I do have a pair. I used to have a pair of integrated boots. I like them a lot because I would never. It's the one thing that I would never lose
or forget at home.
So I had that on my Henderson neoprene suit. But one of the challenges, like in a dry suit for me, was I've always wanted to make sure that my seals were 110%. So every once in a while, I would turn the whole thing inside out and re-aqua seal them or whatever needed to be done. And I always had a tough time doing it on those heavy boots. And the other thing is they are a little bit heavier. I found.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're a little bit heavier when you're. And then the other part, which is kind of interesting, is you want to make sure that when you're buying a pair of fins, that you're making sure that you're wearing what you're going to wear. You're not just showing up at a store and saying, "Oh, I need an extra large," when in reality it might be a double X. So.
Yeah, my fins are a little snug now with the switch. They're okay, but if I were purchasing the fins for the new boots, I'd probably be up a size.
Up a size, yeah.
I mean, they fit, but they're tight.
Yeah, when I switched boots, even my boots from 11 to 12s, I noticed that the fin pocket just didn't go in enough. So I went up a step on a fin, and then it fit in right where it was supposed to be. But yeah, I don't. It's really about comfort. I mean, everybody's got their own. If you're like a search and recovery or that type of public safety diver, chances are you're having an integrated boot, because your gear is typically ready to go. So
one less thing to put on.
One less thing to deal with. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you do find a lot of people with ankle weights, which I found a little odd, ankle weights with that style of boot, because
Really?
it's had a transfer issue of,
That's now you have an air trap. What I was experiencing when I had those boots on my dry suit, I'd have my knees bent, and I would have an air trap in my feet, and that would end up putting me head down.
Yeah.
So I went through. I tried ankle weights. I tried gaiters. I
remember those gaiters. Yeah.
I tried a lot of different things, and I personally like the rock boots, or whatever you want to call them, the over boots.
Yeah.
I like those best for me in my diving in my suit.
Me too.
Anything else?
How about
Okay, Greg?
does color matter?
Greg, does color matter? Not really.
Thank you.
And so now we're going to talk about fins.
Oh, okay.
Not the Jimmy Buffett version.
Okay.
Sure, you didn't put mine up there.
Yes, I did. Aren't they the green ones right here?
The split fins. Okay. Let's talk fins. I probably have tried all those
Yep.
on there. And let's start off with the aqua lung ones on the right-hand top side.
Sure.
I can't really see it from where my screen is. It's just not big enough. But I believe they had an adjustable spring attached to them or something.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not letting me.
Okay, so I believe it had an adjustable side springs. I really wasn't, to me, you know, they were very expensive, number one.
Yeah.
And I was always afraid that I'm a big, like, keep it simple, really simple type of guy when it comes to, dive gear. And I've always thought that there could be an issue with those. People have them for years, never have issues. It would be me who screws it up. The center ones, those are nice. Those are actually with springs too. But the downfall for me was the plastic clips that they had to hold the springs on.
Okay.
So that was an issue. Now the split fins, same thing, plastic clip. A lot of people, I'm not sure I understand why, when they're coming out of the water, you'll always see them holding a fin with it unclipped. And that little piece gets twisted and falls off sometimes. And then they'll show up for the next dive and ask and say, "Oh, does anybody have a clip for it?" So we've always carried extra clips because we know it's going to happen.
So while you're there, let's talk about the design of the split fin for a minute, because a lot of people bash them.
Yeah.
Well, and I say that because I started out with split fins, and obviously students that we deal with, a lot of them use split fins. And to me, everything has its place and purpose. Split fins, in my opinion, worked extremely well. They propelled you quickly in the water, as long as you weren't near the bottom, or if you were doing what we would call a proper flutter kick, you wouldn't silt the bottom up. The problem is that these people are doing a flutter kick straight legged, and they're kicking everything at the bottom. So once again, there's a lot of people bashing split fins, and I get it. For the diving that I do, I don't use split fins because they don't really work well with my kicking style or my finning style. But like I said, I think they're great, and they have a proper place and a proper time with the proper person.
Well, that's interesting. So for me, I like to achieve a few things. When I had for my fins,
Yeah.
so I actually had a split fin. I believe you have them now, Todd. They were the Scuba Pro ones.
Yep.
So
You want me to get them for show and tell?
well, maybe, but the funny part for me was they just didn't have enough power.
Yeah, but you're a big guy.
I'm a big guy, so if I wanted to do a frog kick with them, and there's your cat, I couldn't. It seemed like I had to work that much harder.
Well,
Because-
right, and I completely.
And it's pushing the water through it.
Yes, split fins are not used for a frog style kick. They don't work well.
Some people can do them. I just couldn't.
And that's where I'm going to interject.
Okay.
I dive splits, but I dive a particular split fin.
Okay.
I have tried all the other ones out there, and on all the other ones that are out there, I will agree with you 100%. I won't dive those other split fins because you can't get the power out of them. The ones that I dive, I can do a frog kick, modified flutter. Most of the time when I'm diving, I'm moving my ankles like this, and people can't keep up with me. I'm diving a split fin that is designed for power. the split that they have down the center and the way that it's reinforced, it actually provides lift like an airplane wing. So it propels you forward even though the water's moving in the other direction. The water's going through the fin, but the angle that the fin takes gives you forward propulsion.
Okay.
And I can't tell you how many times other divers that are wearing either blades or they're wearing the turtle fins or the, split fins don't have any power. And we're out there and they're kicking their brains out. And I'm sitting here I'm sitting in the modified frog position, just moving my ankles like this and keeping up with them, no problem.
Yeah.
I haven't found many split fins that actually have the capability of springs. Do you just have springs on them?
Yep, I got springs.
Okay. Good.
Now, they're not cheap.
Right.
They're not a cheap pair of fins. But like I said, I dove blades, I dove the Scuba Pros, I dove that other one that was on the top right corner. I've dove a bunch, being at the shop, we get to try all kinds of stuff. And every fin I put on, I'm like, these things suck. Then we brought in what I'm diving now, and it's like, oh my. Like, it's the only thing I'm having a little difficulty with, but I think it's because it's me and it's not the fin, is doing the reverse fin, the reverse kick, to be able to back up.
A little challenging with that, yeah.
That's a challenging fit movement anyway.
Right. That's challenging no matter what fin you're using.
Right. So I don't know, it's probably me, but
Yeah.
but that's literally like if I need to get somewhere, we had one of the other instructors that I work with, we were at Dutch Springs, we were doing a class. One of our students popped up out of the water to his waist. He was out at the helicopter. Popped up out to his waist. Right? Swearing his as he came out of the water. That other instructor was standing on the shore in snorkel gear, but with the same splits that I wear. And you know how they got the people in the boat? He beat the boat to the helicopter and dragged that other diver back wearing those same split fins. So depending on who makes it, depending on the split, because they're, like I said, I've tried a bunch of the other ones, and you couldn't pay me to dive them in a pool because they don't have the power. I understand why people don't like split fins, but then there's the one company that did actually make them. In my opinion, they made them right, and they made them very powerful, and I've been able to keep up and swim faster than a lot of others. And I'm not a little guy either. I'm 250 pounds plus gear. So, and these things, I can't see myself switching over to the fins that like Todd's diving now.
Yeah. Go back to the picture. Todd.
The turtle fins or whatever they are.
I have different fins for wet and different fins for dry.
So I don't. I wear the same fins all the time. Let's go to the lower right. So I can't tell if those are the Scuba Pros or not, but
the lower right's a Holland, or I'm sorry.
No, left.
Look like Scuba Pro.
Okay. So I have those. You probably have them now. I have the Scuba Pros and the Jets and the Rockets and the Turtles, all those. My big thing was I needed a fin that would feel comfortable in the water, not too stiff, where it felt like I was pushing like a 2x2 sheet of plywood through the water, and it needed to be flexible enough. So I end up getting the Hollis on the right hand side, and to me, by far the best fin for weight wise. For weight underwater wise, also, it just seemed to float my feet right. They weren't overly heavy. They're very flexible. And they fit my foot went right into that pocket the way it should go, wearing those boots, the Bear, rock boots that I was wearing. Different pair may be different, but I was able to wear that. So I have a couple of pair of those, and actually a couple students bought me the yellow tip ones because they came out. They were all black at first, and then they came out with the yellow tip ones. But I'll tell you, for me, that's the most comfortable one, and it's got a really interesting way of attaching the spring to it. Now I took off that plastic loop thing, and I put
Chafe guard.
hose, right? Some type of hose through it instead, just so I have more grip and there wasn't a snag. It wasn't on a snag hazard, but very comfortable for me.
Now I'm curious. What do those fins run cost wise?
Couple $100.
Yeah. See, the ones that I'm wearing are depending where you get them, they're running anywhere from say 180 up to 300.
Yeah.
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 Did I mention I love my fins for $150?
Yeah. Well, what's interesting? I'll tell you a funny mild story. We were up at Folly Cove, and there was 3 divers. I asked if I could tag along with them, and I just got a pair of jets, and I couldn't keep up with them. It wasn't because I wasn't able to go fast. My legs were not accustomed to that style, to that fin, the stiffness of it.
Yep.
I ended up getting cramps in my calves the whole time, and it was very, very painful. Never had a problem with my Hollis ones, not once. So
very cool.
Yeah, I love my Atomics.
It's funny though, if you think about it, a lot of people they find something, they go with it, and it works.
Well, I think you find something that you're comfortable with, and you're hesitant to try anything else. So you have one fin or one piece of gear. Doesn't really matter if you're talking about fins. You have one piece of gear that you find works well. You become extremely comfortable with it and proficient in using it.
Mm-hmm.
You try something new, and you're looking for that same comfort and proficiency level, and it's not there until you use it at least, I don't know, I would say a month.
Yeah.
Dive it consistent for a month and then give your opinion. And you have
funny
people that just switch gear so quickly because it's not comfortable the first time they use it.
Yeah, it's like when you try wetsuits on. If that wetsuit is giving you a wedgie from the start, it is not gonna change in a month. If
maybe you like it.
Yeah, I don't know, not me. That's not for me. But if the pocket on the fin is the pocket on the fin, and it's not comfortable, it's too tight or it's too short, doesn't go in all the way.
Right, that stuff's not gonna change.
I had some OMS slipstreams. That's what they were, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
The pocket on them was gigantic.
Yep.
Perfect for the boots that you wear, Brian.
Right. Yep.
Not for rock boots.
Mm-mm.
They were too wide. So when it went in, it was just too loose.
Yep. Has a size thing going there. Anyways, so we've reached our last subject, and we're going to talk about cutting utensils.
Okay.
Greg likes that. Greg likes that bottom left picture.
I can't see it.
You can't see it.
I must have my things here. That looks familiar.
Yeah. Okay. So a big thing that I come across diving with different people, they buy these expensive, elaborate knives or cutting devices, anywhere ranging from $30 to $40 up to $70, $80, I think, for the Halcyon knife there.
It's titanium. That's why.
But the problem is, I don't care what it's made out of.
No, I know. That's why.
For $80, it's going to cut a piece of line. I guess my problem is, and Greg and I have talked about this extensively, and Brian, I believe we've also talked about it. As a technical diver, if I'm doing a decompression hang, I did my dive, I'm in deco, I'm hanging on the line. For whatever reason, I drop that $90 knife 100 feet below me. First of all, chances are I'm never going to find it, even if I could go back down. Other problem is I normally can't go back down to the bottom. So I just lost $90. I just lost $40. So what I dive is personally, Greg made it, so Greg's got to love it. Greg made
bottom right
on
picture.
the bottom, and it's what, $10?
Total.
And it cut everything I ever needed to cut. So, you know, you have to the right, to the left of that, you have a line cutting device. It's a safety device, really.
Yeah, it's called I just used one today, as a matter of fact. It's got a razor in there. I used it this morning. It's funny. I keep that one in the back of my truck all the time, and it was kind of funny. It works. I made a box, Todd. I don't know if you ever remember this. I made a box, and then I strung 15 different styles of rope, line, all different styles, thick, whatever it was. Yep. And we tried all different things. The top two, surprisingly, can you guys guess which the top two came out?
Both of the top two came out.
The trauma shears and the one you made.
Yep.
Yep.
Because the one I made will not cut a piece of wire. Right? So,
yep.
So, but the trauma shears will cut the wire, well, you know, thin fishing wire, leader, you know?
Yep.
Yep.
So on my setup, I got a set of trauma shears, and I have a knife that is very similar to the center one there, center top.
Yeah.
I purchased one knife when I started diving, which I don't have any longer. I don't know where it went. It was, I don't know, about $100. It was cool. I don't have it anymore. I've got 7 or 8 dive knives that are in that $70, $80 range, but I found all of them.
Lucky you.
You do fine. Yeah.
You know, and that's, so when we were talking, Todd, you're like, hey, what do you have for a knife? Is it expensive? Is it like, well, it is an expensive knife, but I didn't pay for it, so you know, who cares? Most of them I would not take on a dive with me just because they don't work.
Yep.
You know, they just don't. I got stuck once in a nest of fishing line. I don't know if I told you this. I just got my open water certification. We were diving a little pond, and I dropped down into this big ball of fishing line. And it took me and my partner over a half hour to cut me out so I could get free.
Wow.
When I settled in and I went to go swim, I got tangled up. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll just inflate and come up. I'm only 6 feet underwater. I could put my hand up and touch the surface. I fully inflated, and I was stretching against the line, but my head was still about a foot underwater. He realized I wasn't with him. So he came back, and by this point, I had already started cutting and it was from my shoulders down through my fins. I was cocooned.
Wow.
And I had a knife like that top center one. And it was like sawing to cut through each piece. And which is what took us so long. If I had my trauma shears, or I'd had, you know, like I've seen that one, Todd, that you have that Greg made. If I had that, I'd have been out in probably like 3 minutes. But we were there for over a half hour.
It's very interesting you say that. I did a night dive in Stonington, and there's a jetty, and people typically fish out there. So you know, if there's a jetty and you're fishing near you're diving near a jetty, they're going to be fishing and they're going to be leaving line. It's just very common. Well, the night dive coming back in, my buddy, you know who he is, Bob, my buddy Bob, got tangled up big time. Didn't even know it, just kept kicking through. All of a sudden, I turn around and I'm like, holy moly, he's got the ball. Also, he goes to undo it and he gets wrapped up. So it's easier. So as the dive buddy who can see where everything is, pull the knife out. Now I'm always carrying three cutting devices, just in case, right? I don't care if I lose any one of them, but I have them. It's a backup for the backup, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I take out the knife, and it was because it's only 1.5 inches, 2 inches, and I'm not worrying about cutting him. And I'll tell you, we went through the same thing. You couldn't see the amount of filament at night. Even with the flashlight, it was very hard to see see it. But the trauma shears, all that stuff, that they work. I found when I was emptying my shed the other day, I found my first strap to my leg knife. It was this big, and it weighs about 3 pounds. Well, probably about a pound. And it dawned in the beginning that you're thinking that, let's strap it to my leg, but you can't try in a position. Try to take your opposite hand and reach that knife. Almost impossible sometimes.
Yep.
Right.
So anyway, so I keep my shears on a clip, leashed into my pocket.
Yep.
Right. I keep my Z. It's a trilobite, so it's got it's on both sides. The razor comes out of.
Mm-hmm.
I kept that tucked in back, and then right in the center mass is where the buckle is where the one that I made, and that seemed to be, for me, that's the process that I use.
Yep. No, absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, that concludes our discussion about gear. Okay. We did part 1, 2, and this was part 3. Anything to recap? Anything you want to add, guys? You want me to go back to a slide? You want me to go back to a certain piece of gear? You thought of something that you want to bring out?
The next time. We'll keep going.
Okay. So we're going to continue. We got about 20 minutes. We're going to go into diver etiquette. Okay. Diver etiquette. And the reason I wanted to bring this up is I was recently at a dive site. I'm not going to mention names. I'm not going to mention locations. I was recently at a dive site. I showed up early in the morning because I like being in before the students so I can see. So I showed up, I gear up, I get in the water, I go for a dive. I come out, and there's a dive shop there giving a class. It's a public dive site, but they blocked my car in. I had my gear on a bench, and there's, 4 other people around my gear. There's so many different places to set up. You had to pick that and block my car in? I mean, that to me was just, there's no common courtesy. There's no class.
Right.
When you do something like that. So my point was, anytime you go diving, no matter where you go, you want to show common courtesy. Not only for other divers, maybe you're diving on a public beach. So you want to show common courtesy for the residents. You don't want to just completely strip in the street and get dressed. You want to have a little class, is the only way I could put it.
Okay. All right. So you know how when you show up to a dive site and you have your doors open to your car?
Yep.
And you're like, something, okay, I'm good. I get changed. A lot of people will get changed with their doors open in between.
Mm-hmm.
The worst is when somebody pulls up right next to your car and you can't open your door all the way,
Yep.
right? Okay.
And
Or
there's plenty of space.
plenty of space.
Plenty of
That's not
space.
even an issue. Plenty of space.
Yeah.
Or I give a great example, Jamestown. You've got a couple different entries. There's like 4 different known entries that yeah, you got the boat ramp, you got the opposite side, and then right next to the boat ramp, you have another little trail that goes down. And you've got Bull Point. So pretty much four entries, typical entries. The worst is when you're done with your dive, and you got a couple people, and you're exhausted, and you're making your way back up the boat ramp.
And it's slippery because you're in boots.
Slippery, you're in boots, and here comes people walking down and not moving off to the side or not helping if you need help. They're just.
I got one even better. How about the people that stay right at the bottom of the boat ramp
Right
they're
there.
throwing rocks?
Yeah. Or in a known area where they bring a boat in.
Yeah.
Zero reason, because it looks cool. Let's anchor in the middle.
Yep.
I was out and almost had an anchor dropped on us. I looked up and saw the shadow coming overhead, and the anchor dropped down maybe 7-8 feet away. I could see the anchor falling. Fortunately, all my students were behind me, but yep.
Yeah.
Got ran over by a boat in Jamestown. Chuck and I were dive mastering. It was John's class.
Yep.
And we got plowed. We saved the students, but Chuck and I got plowed over by a boat.
I remember you talking about.
We'll get the boat and we're able to redirect the boat away from the class.
So let's go for a minute. Etiquette or etiquette on boats. Etiquette on boat diving.
Yes.
I was always a big one. I bring a lot of gear with me. Normally the dives that we're going on, we have several bottles. I have bags of my clothes, my dry clothes. I have bags of backup gear, whatever. And I know I bring a lot of gear, but I try to keep it as neat as possible. I have a tote. I have bags inside the tote. You know, when I'm done getting dressed or I'm done setting my gear up, everything's back in the tote. It's nice and neat, tucked under the bench. I don't know how many times I've seen just gear strewn all over the place, and you go to sit down and you feel bad that you got to move this guy's gear. But I mean, what the hell is it doing there?
Yep.
You know, boat diving's funny because a lot of people aren't boat divers. And so they are literally, it's the first, second, maybe 50th time, and they still haven't figured it out. And they'll come and they'll take their mask and they'll throw it on the ground. And when you're climbing up, you're not paying much attention to what's on the ground. You're just trying to, it's rough out a lot of times. And you're just trying to figure out, geez, I hope I have a good foot. My next foot doesn't slide, you know? And what do you end
It's going to hurt.
It's going to hurt, right? You end up with broken everything. I mean, we've all had it. And it's funny. Or the guy who sits on your stuff.
Yes.
Sits on your regulators because you haven't figured out that when you set up your gear and you strap it in, that you're not, some people don't even clip their hoses, right? Or their regulators, they'll have them all over the place and then crash.
Yep.
I broke my own regulators once that way.
Yeah. So it's really, it is kind of funny, boat etiquette, or it's not moving. You see people coming and you're not moving out of the way on the boat.
Yeah.
You're just standing there having a Snicker bar. And they're like, and you see them coming, you know, be polite, move out of the way.
They're trying to get right behind where you're standing.
How about on the line? How about like when you're doing a safety stop and somebody's trying to climb over you on that boat, to get up, to keep going. you know?
I haven't had too many problems with that because generally those of us that are making that safety stop, we're all doing it together. And, we haven't had the timing of the dive was nice where it was just us there. We weren't waiting for somebody else we didn't have that. At least my experience so far, we on the line, it's been okay.
Yeah.
Even if you got guys coming up and you're going down or vice versa, it's been, even in heavy seas or in heavy current, I haven't noticed any problems on the line. I have had issues with students not following the line back to the back of the boat. They get to where the Johnny line's hooked up and then they let go and swim away. But that's something else. That's not really etiquette. That's just, But
let's go back to boat diving, boat etiquette for a minute, and just a minute, because I've told you both this story. Okay, so I dive a rebreather. My rebreather is all set up. This boat that we're on happens not to have benches that you put your gear on. You actually put it on the deck under the gunnel, right? So all my gear's set up. My rig is on the deck, under the gunnel, at the stern of the boat. Well, this boat also doesn't have a head or a bathroom. So what is the captain? The boat captain goes to the back of the boat, unzips to relieve himself, and ends up splashing all over my rebreather.
On purpose.
Yeah. So, boat etiquette, pee downwind.
Yeah.
Now, he remembered how much you tipped on the last time.
This was my first time with him. That was the first and only time I ever used that boat.
That's funny.
Oh man, I'll tell you.
No, I was.
Oh, I'd be livid. I'd be livid, but now it's funny.
How about the dive masters that just stand there?
And then expect you to tip them at the end.
Yeah. And don't help you even get in.
Yep.
I have no problem, but when I'm geared up, sometimes I'd like somebody to help me at least a little bit, because you never know. It could be a difficult entry. The boat, you might have to step over the stern. You might have whatever it is. You might have a ladder in its way that's not down yet.
Yep.
Yeah, and then the same thing when you're coming up and they're just standing there. My wife, we were in Bermuda. It was rough, 3, 4 footers, which don't seem too rough. But when the boat was all over the place, they just stood there and expected her to kind of just get up the ladder by herself and take a seat. She banged up her knee pretty bad. And it's just absolutely amazing how.
Well, okay, so. And you this might hurt, this might not hurt, but to me, that goes back to training.
Open water diver, new diver.
If you're a dive master, you were trained to be a dive master.
Right.
If you're not helping in your position, that's because you weren't trained properly, or you just don't care about your job.
Right.
Okay, if you're boat diving, at least when I was coming up, we were taught how to dive off of a boat. Advanced open water, we did a boat dive, and we went over gear placement, gear handling, etiquette, tipping, all that stuff. We were taught that.
Right.
So if someone's not doing that, I can't say definitely it is or definitely it isn't, but it makes me question how they were trained.
Oh, absolutely. No.
And then if they were trained and now they're not doing it, well.
Yeah, right. That's why I can't say I can guarantee they weren't.
Right. And they probably had thousands of dives. If you think about it, they're living on a boat down in the islands. So they're diving a lot. It's just, a lot of times, it doesn't matter.
a lot of people just are in it for themselves.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. I don't want to say it's sad. It's unfortunate because this industry, this hobby is very small to begin with. And when you're trying to grow a sport or a hobby, the last thing you want are people having a bad taste in their mouth. Whether it be a civilian that's just watching you get completely undressed in front of their 4-year-old, or you're throwing garbage on the ground. You don't care
Look at Rockport. Look at Rockport Back Beach. What's going on right now?
what they're going through. Yep.
You know, the town is suing, saying we don't want divers there.
Yep.
Really? I hadn't heard that.
Oh, that's huge.
Really?
Huge. I'll send you like 4 articles that were sent to me.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
For a bunch of reasons. Clanging of tanks at night. How about this one at night? This is the best one. Blowing your dust cap off at night. First off, for me, I don't take a dust cap diving. I just don't. Never have.
Right?
Makes sense because it's not used
In the
water.
dive.
Right. So you got people cranking them on, making that noise all night long. I can understand.
I absolutely.
Can understand that.
But that comes back to etiquette, common courtesy, and respecting your environment, your neighbors. You know, if everyone tried just a little harder not to be a dink,
Right.
then people wouldn't mind so much. I've had people come up to me with questions rather than complaining.
Yeah. I would rather have a question than someone complain.
Absolutely.
If someone's coming up to complain, it's because I did something stupid.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, the Rockport thing is a funny one though.
That is.
Yeah.
But the residents of Rockport, I mean, this is going back 20 years when I started diving. The residents of Rockport always fought scuba diving at Back Beach.
Well, if you recall, one of the biggest problems they said is that every diver, not dive team, had to have a flag. That's where it kind of started because a lot of the lobstermen were complaining, well, we don't know where these divers are. So, but as far as etiquette goes, yeah, you gotta be mindful and definitely clean up. And if you see a beer can hanging around, pick it up, make 5 cents.
Not down here, you don't.
Oh, wow. I just looked up the article. Holy cow.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of funny, it's kind of sad at the same time. With everything that's going on in the world, and I don't want to get religious or political, but with everything that's going on, you think people would take a little extra step to kind of work together, to kind of get along and coexist.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't seem that that's happening.
No.
So.
And it's funny because, you know, even in a dive community, it's like that too.
Yep.
You know, when you show up, when teaching in Jamestown, it was always good. I used to go around and introduce myself to the other instructors. And just in case I needed something or they needed something. And a lot of times, if you ever notice when you go to a site, there's always somebody looking around going, oh my God. The minute they do this, it's like, oh, I forgot to bring it. I forgot to bring my left fin or whatever it is. And, you know, I always had extra gear for everybody. And so it's like, just you give it out. It's not the end of the world. And I think I think we should continue to do that. Definitely.
Yep, absolutely.
I was going with that one, but
And you know what it is like just looking at that article real quick about Back Beach. It's probably 1 or 2 guys that live local. They live like right there, but it's giving all of us a bad rap.
yeah.
And that's absolutely possible. That happens too. Yep.
You know? But wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, etiquette is something that too many people are setting aside, and it's not even just in diving, just in general,
Oh, absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely.
that there is no more please, thank you, that kind of stuff, and not thinking about the other person. It's, well, what am I going to get out of this? Well, I don't care about that because that has nothing to do with me.
Yes,
And
absolutely. But I mean, that's a whole nother subject.
oh yeah, that's
But even from your basic open water class, the instructor should be teaching dive etiquette. So basic open water, they're usually only doing shore diving.
yep.
So teach basic etiquette. How do you act when you're in a neighborhood? How do you act when you're around other divers? You know, first one in, first one out, more or less. So if you're walking into the water and you see a team coming out, step aside. Because you don't know what's going on with that team. They may have a problem and they're trying to exit the water.
Right.
Oh, exactly.
So,
That's exactly right.
anyways, so like I said, I wanted to touch on diver etiquette just because there seems to be such a lack of common courtesy or mutual respect, and we just need to get better at doing our jobs and educating new divers, and even leading by example for seasoned divers. You know, you can do whatever you want to do. This is how I do it, and I don't get the stares that you get, kind of
Right.
thing. So, anyone got anything to add?
I think that's about it.
No? Gentlemen, once again, great discussion. Dive gear, dive etiquette. I don't know. We'll come up with something for next week. Same bat time, same bat channel kind of thing.
Very good.
Very good. Thank you both for joining me. And guys, I really appreciate, I love these conversations. Okay. Whether we were recording them or not, I could talk diving.
A lot of fun.
Talk diving all day.
It's a lot of fun.
I appreciate it. Very good. Thank you.